I love these kind of matchups. It's almost like I wouldn't go so far as to call it David versus Goliath, but the circumstances may warrant it
Yeah.
only because TES was so popular on paper, being the favorites of this entire tournament. Suning pulled off a great upset against JDG in the quarterfinals. So from that angle, you can certainly see it being a lopsided matchup coming into it. Then you have the former teammates on Flash Wolves, the buddies that are still good friends today. And if you haven't watched, it's about a 3 minute and was it 50 seconds, almost a 4 minute video that LOL Esports put out to preview the semifinals. After you watch this show, please go and find it on Twitter. It's excellent. And basically, one of the big storylines that they highlight there are the two buddies, Karsa and Sword Art, who are now going to face each other again. And like you mentioned, we are guaranteed not only an LPL team, but a Taiwanese player making it to Worlds for the first time since 2012 in Taipei Assassins. So let's talk about, I mean, that matchup, obviously, it's not like it's not a lane matchup, but it's definitely one of those sentimental ones, you know, them smiling at each other, et cetera, in the video. But like, when you look at the lanes for these matchups, TES and Suning, where are some of the advantages do you see for both teams?
Oh, it's difficult. I mean, I think it's a very similar story of what we told last time versus Fnatic versus TS, where in the jungler versus jungler matchup, if you're going to go pure carry, SOFM is probably favored. And we did see God Karsa. God Karsa did wake up. His Nidalee did pop off and save TS from certain doom. But in 100 games, out of 100 games, and we love doing our vast probabilities and like how in normal games who wins out, who versus who. I think SOFM is probably favored 80 times out of 100 if it's a pure carry matchup versus Karsa. And if SOFM can exert his pressure in the jungle with his counter jungling and just kind of taking over the entire map, TS is going to be in a lot of trouble. One of the cool things we saw in the SOFM matchup versus who they played in the quarterfinals, I forget, Arda. It was
Suning, JDG.
Oh, JD Game, yeah. One of the cool things that JD Gaming did was that they did not let SOFM just free farm. They used their laners to kind of press them off, Krugs, or press them off Grump, or press them off, or Raptors. Like, they made it sure so he was uncomfortable in the jungle. If SOFM can get through the first 15 minutes feeling comfortable, Suning has a good chance of winning the series. And it is a very much David versus Goliath matchup. Not in terms of like strength. I think it's in terms of popularity. Before this tournament started, I talked to a lot of Chinese reporters, and I asked, give me the lowdown. Like, IG's not here, FPX is not here. Who's the most popular team? And the question was very easily answered by all the reporters. They all said TS. Why? Because they have Jackie Love. Jackie Love's one of the most popular players in the world. He is a former world champion. They have Knight, who is now this anointed god, the number one player for many top 20 lists, including our own at ESPN. 369, one of the best top winners in the world. Karsa, again, another legendary, long-standing player in the scene. Played on RNG, who is the most popular Chinese team. So TES is the most popular team. They're the Los Angeles Lakers of this tournament. I asked, who's the least popular of the four teams? LGD, right? It has to be LGD. Like, they're the worst team, treble in plans. No, it was Suning. Suning was, the least popular of all four Chinese teams coming to this tournament. If you look at their Weibo stats, how many followers they have, they fall behind a lot of the other teams in the LPL, including teams that are not even at the event. And it's because they're a young organization. It's a young franchise. It's a lot of young players. It's, Sword Art, who's, a support and who comes from the LMS, but that's not a huge name to a lot of LPL fans. You have Angel, you have Bin, you have SOFM, who's a Vietnamese player, Huang Feng, who's a rookie. It's a lot of unknown faces for a lot of these players, and they're making a big splash here where if they beat TES, they become China's team, Arda. That's it. That's done. It's wrapped. They're going to have 100 million people in China watching them in the grand final, and they're going to become the unofficial Chinese national team. And the amount of money they're going to make if they can make the final as the lone Chinese representative is bonkers. You can just think of the ad deals, the sponsorship deals, the commercial deals they will get if they can make that final. And if they win it, Arda, if Suning wins that final, their lives change forever. The organization changes forever. Everything changes if Suning can win the grand final because they go from, the pesky underdog, the overlooked team, the fourth out of fourth place LPL team in terms of popularity, in terms of the world championship representatives, to being a super giant. They become world renowned. They're going to be on every magazine cover, every commercial. They're going to be Huang Fei's going to be eating McDonald's with Yao Ming. That's what's going to happen if Suning wins the championship. So it's a lot riding on this matchup for Suning because their lives could change forever. That organization could change forever if they can upset TES and if they can go to the final and even win. Like it really is imperative for them because it'll change the nature of how they are seen forever.
So you touched on the jungle matchup there, and I know that this is not a bot-focused meta necessarily, but I do want to talk about it because Huanfeng has been making headlines with his quarterfinal play. Of course, we can talk about the Jin ult in the base with no turrets down at length. But now he's facing Jackie Love, man. Like, now he's facing Jackie Love. So preview me that bot lane matchup. Huanfeng is in the biggest match of his life. He's a rookie, like you said. Now he's facing one of the best players ever. Right? Like,
top
this
10,
is
top 10.
What now here's your time, kid. Here's your time. Like, this is an incredible matchup to see.
We're talking about legacy, right? And we talked about this a bit on our last show, is if Jackie Love can win Worlds, he's a top 5 player all time. He'll be the first player in Worlds history to win multiple Summers Cups on different teams. That's never happened before. We've had Samsung Galaxy, but the team's entirely changed between that team and the X team. SKT, Faker's won 3, but he's done it all in SKT. Bang's won 2, all in SKT. This would be the first time we've seen a player switch teams and win a world title on that new team. And if he does that, he's a top 5 player all time. He skyrockets up the rankings. He becomes a player where Uzi's number 2 on the ranking. There's gonna be a lot of Jackie Love fans who say, why is Uzi number 2? Jackie Love's number 2. He's won 2 titles on 2 different teams. He's won a domestic title. He is the AD carry GOAT if he wins. And I think that's the discussion we had. And he's the first player in Worlds history in his first 3 years as a pro player to make top 4 at Worlds all 3 years. 2018 as a rookie, won Worlds. 2019, made top 4. 2020, made top 4 on a new team, Arda. Jackie Love is a Goliath. He is a generational player. We talk about generational players like Faker, Knight, Chovy. He is a generational player. He's a player that you get once every 5 years in that position, and he is a player that is going to test Huang Feng to his limit. Huang Feng played outstandingly in the quarterfinals, but make no mistake, Jackie Love ain't no Loken. Loken's a great player in his own right, but he's not Jackie Love. Jackie Love played pretty terribly in the quarterfinal. We can all admit this. He played quite bad throughout the series. He came a bit alive as the series went along, but overall, for a top 10 player all time, a possible top 5 player all time, a very disappointing series. I don't think we're going to get 2 Jackie Love games like that in a row. I don't think we're going to get back-to-back poor Jackie Love performances. Before that game versus JD Gaming or versus Fnatic, he arguably was the best player at the entire tournament. He was a monster in the group stages. So Huang Feng better show up, and he had a 10 out of 10 performance versus JD Gaming in the quarterfinals. If Jackie Love shows up today or tomorrow and he shows that he's back to his rightful form, his optimal peak form, Huang Feng's going to have to pull out 11 out of 10, a 12 out of 10 for Suning to win this series. So it's a matchup where we're having this very hot rookie, this exciting rookie, this player who could be the next Jackie Love, right? We've heard of it. Huang Feng could be the next Jackie Love or the next Uzi. Now it's time to prove it versus the old Jackie Love.
The chat is saying Duke is the only other person.
I forgot about Duke.
Yeah.
Does that really count? Come on. Okay, guys. Semantics. I understand. Duke was on IG, but the Shy played 99% of those games. Okay. All right. Technically, Jackie Love would not be the first. He would be the first starter to win 2 titles on 2 different teams. Okay, we'll put that in. He'll be the first. No offense to Duke. Duke is one of the best top winners of all time. A legend, a great 6-man. But if Jackie Love wins, he'll be the first starter to win 2 different titles on 2 different teams. Okay.
I think the way you said it is totally fair because Jackie Love really contributed greatly to both championships if he does win.
Duke contributed, but he did not start. He did not play over the Shy. I mean, this was the Shy at his peak. Duke was hanging out in the back, chilling, having fun, eating hot dogs with Wang Xing
He was
Like, he was
like Jeremy
chilling.
Lin on the Raptors, or
Yes,
the
yes.
Antetokounmpo brother on the Lakers, who's just like, you know what,
Yeah.
I'm helping in practice. I may not be starting, but I'm contributing.
Yeah.
So it
and Duke,
happens.
Duke fully
Still get a
deserves
ring.
that title. Yeah, he got that ring. 2 rings on 2
So
different teams.
when you look at other matchups then on the Rift between TES and Suning, what else jumps at you? What about the top lane matchup being against 369?
I think a lot of people are going to look at this as maybe a possible winning point for Suning, of like, oh, Ben, he's awesome. He's so explosive. He can play all the aggressive champion. He can play the Camille. He can play the Jax. He can play the Gangplank, as he did game after game after game. I don't know. I don't know if this is a winning matchup for Suning. I think 369 has shown that he's an all-around top laner. He's a top laner who can do everything. He's a player who can play the Ornn or play, the boring Volibear, and he can also play the Jax. He can play the GP. And I think in a full-on carry matchup, maybe Ben can get an advantage. Maybe Ben can win through the top lane if 369 just kind of handshakes and says, hey, let's just duke it out. Let's just have fun. Let's battle it out. But I think 369 is a bit smarter. I think he's a bit more refined as a player, and that's nothing against Ben. Ben's a rookie. He's a player that's going to grow into that position. He's going to be a player a year or two from now that we talk as one of the best players in the world, more than likely, if he continues his ascent. But in this matchup, in this semifinal, I think 369 knows what he has to do. And if the game plan is to play through top lane, maybe they'll try to, 50-50 and say, hey, Ben, let's just try to, Camille versus Jack, see what goes on. You can out carry the other. Or if they want to play through other lanes, if they want to play through Jackie Love, they want to play through Knight, they have that capability. And I think 369 is a good enough player, far good enough player, where he can neutralize Ben if needed. And he can play the Ornn, or he can play the Volibear, and he can get through laning phase without, needlessly dying.
90% of players on our ESPN League of Legends predictor picked top esports to beat Suning. What is your prediction?
This is tough. Not as tough as Damwon versus G2, but I'm gonna say 3-1 to top esports, and it's hard to think of. Suning's amazing, and there's all this rumors around them where Suning's the best LPL team in scrims. They've been amazing in scrims. They've been dunking people on in scrims. But we're going to a semifinal. It's a big spot. The pressure is going to be on. I'm sure it's going to be like an all fiery arena. It's going to be full fire. The graphics are going to be like them over a lava pit.
You think? Do you think that's what's coming?
I think that's going to come. It has to.
Has to. I liked your elements theme, right? Yeah. We had air, we had water, so we had earth with the ground. Fire is the only one left. So I like that.
Has to be a
pit of fire. How do they do that to not make it look like hell, though? That's what I'm curious about. Just like a fire pit? Is it a lava? Is it like molten rock? I actually wonder.
Yeah. It has to be fire, right? Like it has to be fire or something. But when it comes to a semifinal like this, and the pressure is on, and tension is high, it's an LPL matchup too. LPL versus LPL matchup is always going to be two teams ramming their heads into each other to see which one can survive and the other one topples over. And it's just too much talent on TS. It's really hard for me to look at TS and say, okay, well, let's say 369 has a bad day. Let's just say Ben wins the top lane matchup. Cool. You still have to worry about Knight. You still have to worry about Jackie Love. And when one of these top-end players has a bad day, there's 2 other huge carries, 3 carries. In Karsa's example, he's shown that he can do it in the quarterfinals that can take over. So if 369 has a bad day, you have Karsa. If Karsa's having a bad day, you have Knight. If Knight's having a bad day, and all of the top side of the map is having a bad day, you could rely on Jackie Love to pull through. I don't see it's really hard for me to see where all these positions kind of falter. And we saw in the quarterfinals where Karsa and Jackie Love had bad days. Karsa had a terrible day for the first 2.5 games. Knight didn't have a really great game, but 369 pulled through when they needed him. In the game on Sion in game 3, when they were about to get 3-0'd, he had that big game, and he took over, and he was the catalyst of getting them back in the series. Then game 4, it was Karsa who took over. And then game 5, it was a more team effort. But for me, it's you have to get one of these guys. You have to shut down all of these star players every single game, because if one of these players has a huge game, they can carry from their lane. one solo lane kill to Jackie Love, that's the game over. Jackie Love's just going to propel himself and win the game by himself. So it's, for me, I think Suning has a chance. I don't think this is a stomp by any means. It's just, for me, it's really hard to bet against a team with so much talent on it. Because if you shut down one, there's a second guy. And you shut down number two, there's a third guy. And you shut down guy number three, it's a fourth guy. When you have four players who are arguably top 20 in the world, that's just too much. It's too mumuch talent. You need a G2 or Damwon, a team that can really size up to a TES to take them on. Suning are the big underdogs of the semifinals. They are the outlier in that extent of G2, Damwon, and TES, all the number one seeds, and then you have the number 3 seed in Suning. I want to believe in miracles. It would be awesome to see Halongfeng and have his story kind of be bookended by a world championship final, but this is reality, Arda. I had to pick TES. There's just too much damn talent.